A gallery of symbols, insignias, and rituals that make up the character of the new Germany can be found in the dark era of Nazi Germany, which was marked by bloody wars, propaganda, and the horrible Holocaust that the world will never forget. What does the swastika, the Totenkopf, and the spear of destiny have to do with one of Germany's bloodiest regimes? Today, we're going to talk in depth about the disturbing traditions, symbols, and badges of Nazi Germany. The true origin of the swastika. The swastika is without a doubt the most well-known symbol of the Nazi government. It is often linked to violence, hatred, and the endless bloodthirsty effects of World War II. But the sign has been around for a very long time, long before Hitler and his men took over Germany. Swastikas were used by many countries around the world for a very long time to represent peace, luck, and good fortune. The English word swastika comes from the Sanskrit word swastika, which means good luck or well-being. The symbol was first seen on a mammoth ivory bird figure that was 15,000 years old and was found again in 1908 by a Ukrainian scientist named Fedoruk Volov. The figure, which is now in the National Museum of the History of Ukraine, has a swastika that is joined together on the chest of the bird. In addition, the statue was found with some phallic objects, which shows that the swastika was once used as a fertility sign to bring good luck. This mysterious symbol has a past that goes beyond culture. Several Asian religions have used the symbol in a good way for hundreds of years, which proves this. For example, in the faith Jainism, the swastika stands for the 4 different ways people can live: in heaven, as humans, in hell, and below human life. The swastika is also used as a sign in the Zoroastrian faith, which has roots in the 6th century BC and is thought to be the oldest religion in the world. Zoroastrians believe that the 4 points of the swastika reflect the 4 elements: earth, fire, air, and water. Buddhists also use the old sign to show Buddha's steps, which are also called mani. Many Indians still carve the symbol into the doors of their businesses, on their cars, on food packaging, and at events. Swastikas also made their way to China. In 693 AD, Empress Wu made them her own symbol. It was known as Wan in China and was thought to bring good luck. People who followed the Norse religion began using the swastika in Europe as early as 401 AD. It was most often used next to pictures of Thor and his father Odin, who were Norse gods of thunder, the sky, and farming. The swastika wasn't just used by Nordic people, though. The Celts, the Druids, and even the Vikings all used it. The swastika was thought to bring good luck to people all over Europe, according to scholars. Many businesses and groups like Carlsberg, the Finnish Air Force, and even the British Boy Scouts used the sign as part of their branding well into the early 1900s. But when Hitler's Nazi Party made the swastika its official symbol in 1920, everything changed. Over time, it became a sign of racial segregation, extremism, and totalitarian terror. The swastika was used in every part of the country during Adolf Hitler's bloody rule, from the military to civilian buildings and infrastructure, to the many propaganda efforts the Third Reich ran. Over time, the swastika stopped being a harmless, positive sign and became stained with the blood of millions of people. It is now a permanent reminder of the terrible things that happened under Adolf Hitler's rule. The Spear of Destiny. The tales about Hitler's magical wars during the Third Reich's rule are both interesting and scary. During their war, Hitler and his allies used magical symbols and delved into the mysterious world of the spiritual and supernatural. Hitler had a special place in his heart for the Spear of Destiny, a powerful artifact with a long past. Historians believe that whoever possesses this holy object, which is also called the Holy Lance or the Spear of Longinus, possesses the power to rule the world because of its connection to Jesus Christ. Legend has it that the Spear of Destiny is the same one that cut Jesus Christ's side while he was on the cross, carrying the blood of one of the holiest people who ever lived. A Roman soldier hit Jesus with the knife while he was on the cross to make sure he would die. The spear has been one of the most mysterious artifacts ever since. It is said to have ended up in the hands of Adolf Hitler while he was in charge of Germany. People have regarded the Spear of Destiny for hundreds of years as a sign of power and a link to the supernatural world that gives its owner unlimited spiritual abilities. The relic has been a part of some of the world's most famous wars and battles, even before World War II. Many world leaders and warlords have tried to capture it and use its powers. The spear was owned by Constantine the Great, who came up with the idea that it could help a man take over the world. It is thought by many scholars that Constantine's alliance with Christianity and the Spear of Destiny helped him become a successful and powerful ruler. Legend has it that the spear was a big part of Constantine's rise to power and helped him win battles that made him the most powerful person in his time. The spear was also thought to have been very important during the Crusades. For instance, during the First Crusade, Christian soldiers were at a disadvantage when they faced a huge army. It was a miracle that they found the Holy Spear under the altar of the Temple of St. Peter, though. That boost in spirit helped them win the battle. After that, the Holy Lance was seen as a sign of supernatural help that would ensure victory in war. The stick was given to many important people in the world, such as Charles IV, the Holy Roman Emperor, and the most famous king of Bohemia. The Spear of Destiny was given to Charles's son Sigismund after he died. He took it to Nuremberg and kept it there until the Napoleonic Wars. Now we're in World War II. Adolf Hitler, who was very religious, wanted to hold the Holy Lance because he thought it would help his country win. He had the spear brought back to Nuremberg and marked it as a Nazi artifact. His belief came from old stories in which the presence of this very spiritual object was said to have led to war wins. That being said, it's hard to say if the Holy Lance had any spiritual effect on the Nazi troops or gave Hitler's men any power. Based on how World War II turned out, it seems unlikely that Hitler got the spiritual help he needed. The Spear of Destiny was caught by American troops after the war. They found it in an underground hiding place. The Americans were tempted to bring the treasure to the US at first, but in the end they sent it back to Austria, where it is now kept in the Hofburg treasure house. Skulls and bones. One of the most well-known images in Hitler's Germany was the Totenkopf, which means death's head. The swastika is the most famous symbol, but the Totenkopf became notorious as a sign of control, violence, and a wild desire to hurt others. This sign, on the other hand, has been around much longer than Hitler's Germany. According to historical records, the emblem was first used on the clothing of the Prussian Hussar Regiment No. 5 in the late 1730s, when Frederick the Great was king. The unit first fought in the War of Austrian Succession and then in the 7 Years' War. They wore dark symbols on their Merleton hats. The sight of a soldier wearing a hat with a skull on top scared even the strongest people. This was to show that the warriors were determined to fight until they died. In 1809, during the War of the Fifth Coalition, the Totenkopf was still used. It was worn by the Black Brunswickers, a private army that Frederick William, Duke of Brunswick-Wolfenbüttel, put together to fight Napoleon's armies. The Black Brunswickers fought in the Peninsular War and the Battle of Waterloo, and they still wore the Totenkopf emblem. By 1918, the skull and crossbones were back on the outfits of German stormtroopers, but Hitler's harsh government soon took them over. The skull with the crossbones became a well-known mark of Hitler's Schutzstaffel, SS, which was his personal bodyguard. The SS and the Totenkopf became one and the same over time, especially with the Totenkopfverbände, which was one of the 3 original SS groups. Millions of Jews and other minorities were killed in concentration camps that this group watched over. For these people, the Totenkopf meant death and fear. Military hats and coat collars had the skull and crossbones on them, which added to their dark mystery. This meaning was summed up by SS commander Heinrich Himmler, who gave top SS members the Totenkopf ring, death's head ring, which was made with the Totenkopf emblem on it. The Totenkopf's haunted character lives on today, reminding us of a horrible past and a culture of violence, bloodshed, and oppression. Ariosophy, the occultic roots of Nazism. In 1985, scholar Nicola Goodrick Clarke wrote a book called The Occult Roots of Nazism. In it, he revealed many previously unknown facts about how the Nazi movement really began. Many people think it was all about politics, but its roots are much darker, and they might lead us to unknown parts of the occult, especially a racist movement called Ariosophy. Historians think that the movement was very important in the rise of Nazism. The story takes place between 1890 and 1930, when Guido von List and Jörg Lanz von Liebenfels created this strange set of ideas that most of the upper-class people believed in. We bring to light practices like this one that aren't used as much these days by showing the Nazi routines and symbols that even the leaders of the SS were scared of. Wisdom of the Aryans is what the word Ariosophy means. It was created by Lanz von Liebenfels in 1915. By the 1920s, it was the name of his well-known teaching. It is made up of many different ideas, such as runic symbols, the idea that the Aryan race is superior, the swastika, and even some occultism. Guido von List sent his manuscript to the Academy of Science in Vienna for the first time in April 1903. In it, he proposed what has been called monumental pseudoscience about the old German faith. His manuscript had ideas from Ariosophy that were heavily inspired by Theosophy. It made a big difference in the rise of an occult counterculture in Germany and Austria in the years before the Second World War. Historians think that Ariosophy was the source of the Nazi movement, especially the religion part of it. In contrast, author Goodrick Clarke thinks that the occult movement was more of a sign than a cause, similar to how it predicted Nazism. The idea behind the racial religion of Ariosophy, also known as Armanism, is to reject the forced Semitic religion of Christianity and return to the religions that the old Indo-Europeans knew and practiced. The original idea was to worship the sun, and the priest-kings would have been like the legendary masters of ancient Germany, who were both spiritual and political leaders. The Reichsadler. Also very interesting is the Nazi coat of arms, the imperial eagle, or Reichsadler. It was a big part of the Nazi character. This symbol has been around since 1804, when Holy Roman Emperor Francis II set up the Habsburg Empire and made the double-headed eagle its official coat of arms. The emblem was a mix of the Order of the Golden Fleece's inescutcheon badge and that of the House of Habsburg-Lorraine. Even though the Holy Roman Empire ended in 1806, the sign has been a part of Austrian culture since 1919. It's important to note, though, that Austria's version had an eagle with one head instead of two. After the German state's revolution in 1848, the Reichsadler was brought back as a sign of national unity. It was later used as the coat of arms by the short-lived German Empire after the German Confederation was formed in 1850. Before the Confederation finally broke up in 1866, the Reichsadler continued to be the official sign. But its history will always be linked to German culture, because in 1871 it was brought back to life when a single-headed eagle became the symbol of the German Empire. During Hitler's rule and the rise of the Nazi Party, the Reichsadler was changed to include a stylized eagle along with the Nazi swastika, which became the national symbol called the Heilszeichen. Even though it has medieval roots, this new form of the logo, which came out in 1935, has become the most well-known. The Reichsadler is mostly linked to the Nazi government because it was a big part of the culture of the time. The Nazi Party also had a different symbol called the Parteiadler, which means the party's eagle. It could be told apart from the Reichsadler by the way its head was angled. The Reichsadler was a big part of all Nazi marches and other big events. Hitler would give talks in front of it. It was also used on vehicles, military uniforms, government papers, and everything else the Nazi government did. People now see the Reichsadler as a sign of injustice, so it has lost touch with its roots. It will always remind us of one of the worst times in history. Uniforms and fashion. It may seem like a small thing, but during the Second World War, the Nazi government made the most dramatic military uniforms to show courage, power, and fear. Hitler was a great tactician during his lifetime. He thought that war was more than just guns and bombs. He carefully thought out ways to make Germany look like a stronger force. To reach this goal, Hitler made sure that even small things, like how the uniforms worn by Nazi soldiers were designed, were given the utmost care. The Nazis made a bold fashion statement while brutally killing people around the world. They were crazy about black leather, awards, armbands, and brass buttons. The uniform style used by the Nazis was so strange that an American author named Kurt Vonnegut called it madly theatrical. In a totalitarian country, everyone wore a uniform, whether they were in the military or not, but while other totalitarian states often chose practical dress codes and muted colors to get rid of the idea of individuality, the Nazis chose styles that showed their beliefs, making every citizen feel like they were a part of a big national project. People in the Nazi army thought that their uniforms looked like those worn by the mysterious German heroes in medieval Europe. This idea led to the design of the uniforms, but instead of plate and chainmail, the Nazi troops wore black leather. With their slouch hats and ankle-length black cowhide coats, the Nazi Gestapo, which was meant to be a secret police force, found it hard to keep things secret. When they went to war, the SS panzer divisions stood out because of their black forage caps with leather visors, as well as their leather jump boots and suits. The Nazis were very picky about what they wore. No one in the high command, not even Hitler, was fully dressed unless they had a huge collection of leather clothes. One of the people who helped make these outfits was the famous fashion mogul Hugo Boss. It's no surprise that he went on to create one of the most popular fashion names in the world, but his Nazi past will always be a part of who he is. Blutfahne, or the blood flag of the Nazis, is yet another haunting emblem tied to their legacy. Blood flag. This is the Blutfahne, which was the most important thing to the Nazi Party. Its past is both interesting and scary. You see, on November 9, 1923, in Munich, Germany, the Nazi Party tried to take power in a coup called the Beer Hall Putsch. The plan did not work out in the end, though. German police started fire on the Nazis as they marched toward the Feldherrenhalle, waving the flag. One of the flag bearers, Heinrich Traub, was hit, and he dropped the flag right away. Soon after, a man named Andreas Bauriedl was shot and killed while walking with the flag. When he hit the flag, his blood got on it. The next events are told in two different ways. One story says that the hurt flag bearer took the flag to a friend who took it off its staff and hid it under his jacket on the way out of the area. According to the other story, the flag was taken by the authorities in Munich and then given back to the Nazis by a man called Karl Eggers. No matter how the flag was found, it got to Hitler himself after he got out of jail for his part in the coup. At that point, the Nazis saw it as a holy sign. Hitler got the flag and had it put on a new staff, even though Andreas Bauriedl's blood was still on it. He also wrote the names of the 16 Nazis who died in the attempt to take power. Since then, it has been a big part of Nazi rallies, marches, and other events. The Blutfahne was kept at the headquarters of the Nazi Party in Munich when it wasn't being used. It had its own SS Guard of Honor, but when people stopped supporting the regime, the flag suddenly disappeared too. It's said that it might have been destroyed when the Allies bombed Munich in 1945. Black Sun. The Black Sun is another interesting sign that became linked to the Nazis. It is also an important part of the neo-Nazi movement that is still going strong today. The design has 12 circular sig runes, which are like the ones the SS use in their logo. It wasn't always linked to Hitler and his political movement, though. In fact, the symbol has been around since the early 1900s. The first drawing of it can be found in the Vowelsberg Castle in Westphalia, which is near Paderborn. Heinrich Himmler, who was in charge of the SS, bought the castle in 1933 with the plan to turn it into a military centre. This gave it a Nazi look. From 1936 to 1942, Wewelsburg Castle was rebuilt and expanded so that Nazi ceremonies could be held there. By the end of the 1800s, the Black Sun sign was often linked to white nationalist, neo-fascist, and far-right groups. It's also been used on a number of radical flags, T-shirts, websites, and other forms of media by extremist groups. The name Black Sun became famous after Russell McCloud's occult thriller book The Black Sun of Tashi Lumpo, which came out in 1991. McCloud says in the book that the sign was a magical energy source that the Aryan race used to get stronger. Recently, the symbol has also become popular again. It has been linked to events like the shootings at the Christchurch mosques, the Antifa resistance movement, and the Unite the Right gathering in Charlottesville, Virginia, along with other well-known symbols from the Nazi era. This one has a bad image for being linked to one of the scariest times in human history. Conclusion. An awful lot of people have said bad things about Nazi symbols since the end of World War II. Many Nazi images are now illegal in many countries, such as Austria, France, Germany, Israel, Poland, Russia, Ukraine, and many more since the fall of Nazi Germany. One of the main things these rules are meant to stop is the Nazi flag, which is strangely allowed in some places but not in most European countries. Putting up these Nazi images in Germany without permission is illegal and can get you 3 years in prison. People who are found guilty in Australia can go to jail for up to a year. But groups like the Ku Klux Klan and other white supremacist groups often use these images because they sometimes fit with their beliefs and values. Still, Nazi symbols are hated all over the world and probably always be that way. We hope you liked this video. Watch another video here.